Welcome to Movie and a Beer, everybody. This is Dan bringing us in. We have a really fun, amazing show for you this afternoon or evening, depending on when you're listening.
Or morning.
And it is the 4th of July, so a happy celebration for those that want to celebrate. We have our fun and amazing friend from the coast joining us for this amazing Americana type episode.
Our very own Steve Irwin.
Yes, knows all about nature.
All right, so
Wait,
you just gotta go in there and stick your finger up his butt and piss him off.
Okay, see.
And then when you piss him off, then you got that. That's my Australian accent.
That's my mistake. I should not have done a bit about Steve Irwin. I apologize, listeners. I should have known he would do a terrible accent and not just...
All right, Jason, we forgive you for that.
I don't.
But we also have... Our like the guy who's been here for just about every episode hanging out with us.
Pretty much. I might miss a couple.
That would be me again. So thank you. This is Jason. I'm in most episodes. Sometimes I go by Blake.
Yeah.
But sitting
You're
in the
welcome.
back just kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
He's always there hiding.
Like
in the
people
background.
hanging out during hip-hop recordings.
Yeah. Hey, they get credits for that, you know.
That's right.
Oh, good for them. Now, this is Blake, your hip-hop expert.
Yeah!
You know, Eminem dropped a new single.
That's how we roll.
That's all my expertise.
Let's
take a beat to talk about this movie, Sasquatch Sunset.
Sasquatch Sunset. So this is a Jesse Eisenberg
Produced
vehicle. He, I think, bankrolled his production company, did it, and executive produced, and he didn't write and direct it. There's some interesting, well-known, and let's just say good directors that participated in it.
Are they? Well, I never heard of them until this.
Well, you know,
but
you got to give them credit for at least trying.
that doesn't sync up with what you said. But David Zellner and Nathan Zellner.
Yeah, the movie came out a little bit ago.
Earlier this year, showed at Cannes. Was it everyone walked out on?
Yeah,
Yes.
we knew we were going to be hanging out here on the 4th of July. So I got some cheap beer and one nice, really big, expensive beer that, because we're watching a Sasquatch movie, I was like, let's get one of them Great Divide Yeti beers because it's got a Sasquatch on the can.
It's got Sasquatch.
Yeah, so
Torpedo can, which is larger than a tall boy, right?
correct.
Nice.
It's like 19 ounces or 20 ounces, something like that. It's a lot of beer to be handling. And it's a full pint. It's 568 milliliters. That's a lot.
Holy cow.
It's a whole lot of beer in one
We split
can.
one between three of us, and I had a sizable amount of alcohol in my glass.
And it was good. Like, I think the beer was better than the opening of the movie, but
maybe.
I loved the movie.
Oh, the movie's great.
Let me make that clear. But that beer was squatching it hard. It literally squatched
It was Squatch-tastic.
competition.
Yes. So the funny thing is so this is a $10 torpedo of beer, the Mexican Chocolate Yeti Imperial Stout. The other beer that we had was 10 Barrel Brewing's pub beer,
Which you can get
is
like 18 for
$10.
$10.
Which is, so this one beer was costing more than the entire set of other beers that we got. And so I'm going to premise that
We're going to just talk through the Yeti sounds coming from our guest.
he's Yetiing out over here, or squanching out, as we were saying during the film.
I just wanted to be noticed.
So there's four
You will.
actors. There's four actors, no word spoken. They mime up, pantomime everything.
Grunts and miming, yeah.
There is some communication between them. Obviously, they're not stupid apes. They're human apes.
Yeah,
sorta.
man-apes.
Man-apes.
They're
Ape men,
evolved.
ape women, ape
They're the
children.
missing link.
Guys, they're Sasquatches. I don't understand why we're trying to change the name to Ape Man. It's they,
Well, they're the
They're-
North American great apes.
Sasquatch.
There you go, the Squatch. So we really, really wanted to do something Americana, and this film, which came out recently, felt appropriate to have during this Independence Day because the Sasquatch have to face the reality of the impending, society of humanity crashing in on their humble abode, be it the outdoors. So
It was
Creatively?
That's right. That would be beer talking. Selected.
yes. So
yeah.
So
I'd agree with that.
it's a family. There's an older male.
In the titles, named alpha male,
yeah.
male, female, and child.
Yeah. So this family of Sasquatches, which is possibly the last of their enigmatic kind, embark on an absurdist, epic, hilarious, and ultimately poignant journey across the course of 1 year. The shaggy yet normal giants fight for survival as they find themselves on a collision course with the ever-changing world around them. including messing with cougars that they shouldn't mess with, and possibly
logs.
The
badger kind of just does his own thing. The skunk was fine.
I mean, they interact with all the wildlife, and the wildlife don't care. They're just like, you're their wildlife. Whatever.
Yeah, they're part of that
the scene,
the ecosystem, as opposed to high vis color wearing yuppies hiking through the woods and setting up camp.
Yeah. I just want to say that the actual.
You do know this movie's made up, right?
It is not made up. It is real.
No, it's a documentary.
The actual story and what they're trying to say is when you go camping, don't go with cougars or logs.
Don't mess with them.
And don't eat shrooms. And if you do that, you won't die by cougars or logs.
But do leave out your mega bass stereo for wanderbys to listen to your cool mixtape.
Are you kidding me? That's what kept Harry from running into the road and getting hit.
Yeah,
that's true.
They did find a road.
The road
scene was pretty gnarly because they're like, we don't know what this is, and they look in one direction and they freak out because it goes and goes and goes, and then they turn around and it goes and goes and goes the other way. They're like, what the hell is this?
I feel like it's a really good segue to get into the music because the music there was perfect. It hit that tone of they're scared. I'm feeling their fear through the music, through their actions, and the music in this movie was so good.
It was on point.
And that brings into something like when you do a movie like this, I hate to use this. What was the other one? Wonderland with Nicolas Cage. Was it Willy's Wonderland?
With the animatronics.
Right. And there was no dialogue except for like one line.
Well, he didn't say a single word.
Yeah, he didn't say a single word. There was a little bit of dialogue, but for the most part there wasn't. And what they did with the music in that and in Sasquatch Sunrise is very, very, very pertinent to the story because without that you don't have anything because there is no dialogue. So the music tells the story. Mm-hmm. And as you guys were just saying, like definitely during the road scene, during the cougar scene, during the birth scene,
during the play scenes,
when they're
70s,
playing,
very 70s light flute.
It told you what was going on.
Mm-hmm. It felt very 70s,
right? And that's was the thing is like the Sasquatch can only communicate so much, but then the music comes in, and then it's like, okay, this is supposed to be happy, or this is supposed to be intense.
Yeah.
And so the music was more of the dialogue than the actual grunting,
which is, I think, really helped.
Yeah,
sorry,
lots of grunting, lots of.
I like how you apologize and do it again.
Sorry.
So as far as the visuals. So music, outstanding.
No robots punching robots here.
No CG.
It's just practical makeup on the actors playing Sasquatches.
Yep, in Sasquatch suits, which got dirty a lot and then suddenly cleaned a lot. We're like, that's a little sketchy.
They're never specific about passage of time except from season to season.
Yeah.
Which I thought was also a really nice touch.
And it did show them multiple times finding water and drinking and cleaning themselves a little bit.
Eating.
So perhaps they did understand, like, I need to be clean and hygienic a little bit and not just be covered in stuff. Because they did find things like eggs and they found mushrooms to eat that were both healthy and the psychedelic kind.
Fish.
They had fish.
Ferns. Yeah, the movie opens with them just kind of almost like cows just chewing cud, just kind of chomping on ferns and hanging out. And
so
I think Jason pointed out, like, they're all sitting apart from each other, which maybe that's part of the evolutionary reason why there's only 4 of them. This movie gives you a lot of questions to ask, like, are they doing this because there used to be more and now there's only 4 of them?
I don't know.
Could you say that they're representing... Okay, so you have the female that produces children. Mm-hmm. You've got a child.
Yeah.
You have the father.
The alpha male, yeah.
No, you have the father, and then you have the grandfather that's the alpha male. Is the way I sort of look at it. And so could you say that within those 4, they're representing every generation throughout, as well as as a way as cultures evolving throughout the Sasquatch-ism, where you have the older guy that's going out and doing drugs and fighting the world, and then you have the man who is actually trying to take care of what's going on and reproducing and finding food. And you have the female that is very concerned about taking care of the children and nothing else. If you look at it, it's like there's like cultures within cultures, and then how generations evolve. It's very like I sort of looked at it as like the coming of age almost of potentially, as we've talked about it, Harry.
Yeah, this is
Hendersons.
This is possible prequel because the camping scene where they run across an empty campsite
and has delicious Cheetos. And this podcast brought to you by Cheetos.
No, they're cheesy poofs. Cheesy poofs, not Cheetos.
Yum, cheesy poofs.
Cheesy poofs.
Big cheesy poofs.
Never again.
And there's like a little boombox, and they got it to start playing, and there's a song that occurs in the movie that you can hear, and it's just like
very 80s of a
and it's a mixtape.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
To cement it, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it's like, oh, this is old school, and it could be just retro people with retro stuff, current day, or it could be old. So there are some other instances where they run across humanity and like a logging camp, and in that, you don't see anything that identifies it as current or old. No. It's kind of like it's just like boxes.
The key thing is that you're seeing square shapes and clearly man-made structures versus all the natural nature they've been in. That sounds redundant, but just all the
no, you're fine.
Like classic trees, dirt, river, like everything that made by nature. It's almost H.P. Lovecraft. It's almost Lovecraftian the way these Sasquatch have to grapple with what even is this?
Yeah.
How do I? They almost worship a red X
that
loggers
use. Redundant.
Yeah,
you're redundant.
I am. No, it doesn't sound redundant. That's a good point.
But yeah, like just them grappling with what even is. I have no frame of reference.
Yeah. Well, so they have consciousness. They understand what they're seeing.
Absolutely.
Versus
they're intelligent creatures.
An animal wouldn't necessarily care if there's a red, like the deers or the bucks that were around, or the badger or the skunk that they played with, wouldn't care if there's a red X. They wouldn't even probably see it, or if they did see it, they wouldn't understand.
These things have enough intelligence to see that and go, what does this mean?
I mean, there's also one. The child talks to his hand, and his hand talks to him.
I always forget about that.
What is the actual representation, or maybe that's the wrong word? What are they trying to say with the title? Sasquatch
sunset?
They show a bunch of sunsets.
Or sunrise.
It's sunset.
Sunset.
Are you suggesting that the time of the Sasquatch is sunsetting? That their time is end? Oh my god!
Or maybe
how do you have like 9 different cool theories about this movie and I have none?
Well, maybe where one. This goes back to what I was saying with the generations, right? Is where that this era, Sasquatch era, is over.
Yeah,
and you can play that. This is kind of fun. I just thought about this. You could play that into the Sasquatch movies. I mean, honestly, for me, the most well-known Sasquatch movie in our era, and listeners, all 10 of you, correct me if I'm wrong.
11. Take it easy.
Okay, sorry, 12. You can't be right, so 13. So
we're fine.
Could that be where not just the prequel, but the prequel to Sasquatch movies, and it was like this Sasquatch sunset is the sunsetting of them not being noticed, and now they're coming into the real world, and now they're being noticed, and it's one of those things where it's like they go from being an omnipotent, almost
like unknown
being,
and
then they're coming into the world. So the sunset is Sasquatch, maybe to Bigfoot.
I don't know, because they do have a couple of scenes where they're walking in the snow and there's a big footprint that they leave, even though these creatures are not big. They're normal size human and smaller.
Right, and the argument is they go to the real world and they see a sculpture of a Bigfoot. So they have already been noticed, but is it to where now the world knows? Essentially.
Right.
Or you could even, maybe you could make an argument that Sasquatch Sunset, it was about dying and rebirth. And you had 2 males pass away, and you had a child and another child being born. So maybe Sasquatch Sunset could potentially also go into the sense of maybe not.
The question would be, did they learn? Like, don't mess with the cougar, and be careful around logs and rivers.
There was a lot more death in this movie than I expected.
Yeah, it was kind of sad.
Sasquatch
I mean, we knew that there's like basically no plot. We're like, do we watch this? This is like a nature documentary. Is it just kind of a fun following these guys with toilet humor? Well, and there really isn't any toilet humor. There's a little bit of joy. Yeah, there's just toilet. There's jokes. There's visuals that can be offensive to people, and yes, people walked out of this movie in cans and in other places where it's been shown.
There's a couple of scenes where I called out, I bet this is when people walked away. Yeah. And I don't think it spoils anything. There's a salmon roe spraying scene. I'm like, I can see people leaving during this. Like, this is really gross, but they're just surviving. They're eating something that had
some salmon.
High in caloric intake, like caloric value. That's just them surviving.
I could see them leaving during the sex scene because it
happens way
drawn out. It's drawn out a little.
It's drawn out, but it happens early, and it does set up like the whole sunset Sasquatch theory you're pitching of that. There's death and there's birth.
Yeah.
And so my question is, if that umbilical cord, because there's a birth.
Oh, the one connected to the hamburger?
That's connected to this giant looking thing.
The Hamburglar.
Is like, is she only able to have one child? Because that looks like that just came out of her. And it's like, that means, is it just one and done?
It became a running gag for this movie that I kept pitching. We don't know their biology, guys. Let's all just take it easy. Yeah. But it might just, maybe they're close enough to humans that, except for like Octomom or whatever, humans typically give birth to like 1 to 2
if you're curious
things at a time.
Versus and your like Facebook a litter friends with me.
I was going to pitch it, but I didn't want to overstep. Find Jason on Facebook and see.
There's a scene that's been added to it, which is hilarious and quite inappropriate for this podcast. But you know what? We digress a little bit.
Cougars are like praying mantises. They eat their
mates.
Here we go.
They eat their mates' heads? I don't think that's what cougars do, but
so it's cool that the same cougar though followed them around because it got their scent when it ate one of them.
That's a good point.
Like,
that's a really good point.
That's what they do. They follow their prey.
Yeah, it becomes the jaguar or the leopard from Tarzan. Becomes like this mythic enemy to have to deal with.
If you look closely, the cougar's eyes actually turn into those
diamonds.
No, they turn into the hypnotic little spin right there at the end, like in Lion King. If you pay attention, right at the end when they are all staring at them, the eyes change. Now that I've got you completely focused in on this, it was totally bullshit.
Yeah, not real. My ADHD kept me safe.
I asked you,
but I would say turn on them subtitles because there is some funniness associated with that because you see like UH.
Yeah,
like it's like
Dan. We saw it one time. You had
dude.
You had it on the entire time, and that was it. There was nothing else that was subtitled. Well, now
you're spoiling the fun.
The cinematography.
The amazing
gorgeous.
Visuals.
It looked like postcards.
They did every shot, and there was a lot of lingering shots with them just holding still. Yeah. And like for 30 seconds, holding still in a meadow, and you're like, oh, they're just part of the scenery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If I can channel Brian here for a second, if you're going to watch this movie for any reason, watch it for the cinematography.
I agree.
Like, I agree with Dan, not much of a plot. There's kind of a story being told, but it's almost documentarian, except there's like some music. It's an interesting mix of all these things we're mentioning, and I can't really nail down what it is, but I would recommend this movie to people.
Yeah. I would say that they spent a lot of time figuring out these shots because they're beautiful scenes, and they had to be there at the right time of the day and the right time of year.
Love golden hour.
And that's not easy to do. That takes effort.
It does. And here's something else that when you guys said that, it made me think about it, and it is very true in this movie. The thing in there that Blake brought up and then that Dan reiterated is the fact the scenes, right? And how there's long, and Dan said it like 30 seconds or whatever, where you're just seeing a scene with them in the field or in the forest. You know why they're doing that, in my opinion?
Why is that?
Because they're showing how hard it is to see a Sasquatch.
Because they're just part of the scenery.
They are just part of the scenery, and they do that 30-second, and then you know they're there because they showed them there. But would you have seen them there when you're hiking down a trail?
I mean, I did get
bumped
by one jogging with his hair in a...
No, but the one... I mean, there's... Okay, I said that there really isn't a whole lot of sight humor or sight gags. There's a scene with a turtle that's kind of funny. Mm-hmm. The kid talks to his hand and it talks back to him because, you know, he needs conversation. He's lonely. It was just adults and a grandpa.
The grandpa is trying to bang the female, and the male is like counting rings.
He's like, what are you doing? He tries to count to 7. He's counting the stars, and he gets to like,
he does that with the tree rings.
You can't count anything. He does the tree rings, the stars, and the eggs. There was only 4 eggs.
They don't have traditional education, guys.
No,
They're
they
also
don't.
not fully sure what he was doing with the eggs.
Well, here's the other thing.
They got eaten.
They sure did by someone else.
Yeah. Here's the other thing that you guys are bringing up about this is that, and the only gripe I have about this movie is when he's talking to his hand. How did he find out how to talk with his hand? Now, you could make an argument with that, and then they take the turtle and they talk to it as a phone.
And if this is set in the 80s,
and it's like the turtle is like talking back to it.
Yeah, and then if it's set in the 80s, like you're saying, we have another person that's in.
No, don't call him out. He doesn't
join the fray.
No, he doesn't.
But when it comes to that, like, how did they know to pick up a turtle and talk to it like a person?
Maybe they saw it happen. Like campers doing it. Who knows? Maybe they're just repeating, and so that's how you learn is mimicry. You repeat.
I'm great.
Other people.
I'm glad he asked.
That's part of a cognitive learning theory that Merlin Donald has out there called cognitive. It's mimetics or mimicry. So children learn by repeating what they see and what they do. That's how you learn how to speak.
Yeah, Jason. Children learn by repeating what they hear and what they see.
Can I make an argument though?
Yes.
How the hell do you know about a phone, but you don't know about a boom box? How do you know about a phone and you don't know that? And that's my thing. But you can. It's kind of fun because I like sort of debating right now. I will totally step back though and say, based off of what you guys are saying, like it could be something where they saw. My point is like though that you have other technology. You have a boom. You came across a phone, but you can come across a boom box during the 80s. And my thing is like if you had and in as Blake saying it's the 80s, right?
They didn't have cell phones back then.
They did not have cell phones back then. So
they had walkie-talkies.
But they did have sat phones.
They had sat phones and walkie-talkies and that kind of stuff. So maybe, and they're in the wilderness, so it's what are you going to see in the wilderness?
That's the most likely place to use a sat phone.
Yeah.
I mean, I use a turtle personally to call everybody. It's great reception.
I use tortoises.
Yeah,
because you're an idiot.
And then throw them when you don't like it anymore. You just throw it. I was like, PETA's not going to be happy about that.
I didn't think they were throwing it because they were frustrated. I think they were throwing it because they were hanging up the phone.
That's why I hang up the phone every time I get off the cell phone. Like bye, I hurl it across the room, shattering a window.
There you go. Great cinematography.
Yeah,
interesting music. While there isn't a whole lot of plot, there is a story.
There is a total
You're just following a period of time with these characters who, yes, they're people in suits. It's obvious.
What?
It's painfully obvious. But that's okay because it's an interesting approach to cinematography and the simple fact that you can tell a story about anything. As long as you have enough money to afford the film or digital print or whatever it is.
Or just have a specific enough vision to be able to tell something without dialogue.
We can't sit there and say there isn't a plot and say there's a story.
Well, plot's different from story.
It's not for me, and I know more.
Learn to read.
No, I don't know how to read. But in reality, the plot for me was the coming of age of the Sasquatch. It's the sunset. Like I go back to the sunset thing, but the plot was the fact that it's this changing and this where they're coming into civilization because you see it. It doesn't start till the end. You see forest fire.
Yep.
After they've come across the tent, and you see forest fire, and maybe I'm wrong, because of Blake's eyes, I can't tell, but maybe I'm wrong off of that. But I don't remember. Did it come first? Did the tent come first or the forest fire come first?
I don't remember. I forgot about the forest fire entirely.
Okay, so
I think it was after.
Okay, so the tent, then the forest fire,
and then the logging camp.
Before the logging camp, there was power lines.
Yeah.
There were power lines to logging camp to then that other spot.
Yeah, they were just following stuff. They were just like, it's a road, and they freaked out about the road because it's like they'd never seen this.
And that's a good point because before they found anything else, they found
they freak out when they're on the road.
Yeah,
and if you want to get technical, it's the road, it's the red X's, it's the tent, the forest fire, and then civilization. And throughout all that, so the story really is, and the plot is they're discovering civilization, and what they're going to do with it. And it ends as soon as they get a place where people like humans visit.
And reside in a life. It's like a business. People are spending 8 hours minimum there. Yeah. So it's basically it's like a home.
Yeah. Right.
I think that this is worth a watch. Not everybody's going to like it. It does have some visuals that are a little
upsetting. It's not the kind where like I'm watching a movie full of murder. I'm like, I can't stand all this blood, but there's some fish squeezing. There's defecation and urination.
Yeah, but I mean, they're animals, quote unquote.
Right.
You have to appreciate it for that point of view.
And if you go into the movie knowing that movies are cinema, not movies, but cinema.
I get what you're saying.
You see how I'm getting at where it's an art form? Yeah. Then it is actually a really good
It's movie. A really beautiful film.
I mean, it really is.
It's really well done from the visual standpoint.
They sadly didn't drink a lot of alcohol, but we
drank some water. We had a couple of really.
We didn't drink any water.
We didn't drink any water. We had water with
alcohol.
We're
like beef jerky over here.
I highly recommend this film. Yeah. You'll be pleasantly surprised if you're in that mindset, and if you understand that film is cinema and it's an art form. You will really enjoy this movie. If you're somebody that is all about dialogue, explosions,
superhero landings,
special effects,
romanticism on some levels, comedy,
Michael Caine, Gary Oldman,
Michael Caine.
You're not gonna enjoy this. Like, this is really something that is trying to throw something else out there that. It's not a zany comedy or a drama about Sasquatch, or you're not concerned about them being killed by humans. You're not concerned about them
fighting vampires.
Anything like that. Yeah. It's literally about following Sasquatch through a year of their life, and that's what it is, and coming to realization that they are not alone. That they are not alone.
They are self-aware.
Yes.
They see themselves in a mirror for the first time, and that freaks them out.
Right. They can talk on tortoises.
Yes. So there's some interesting points. A tortoise is singular, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. There was only one.
Hey, Jason, did you notice how I had a nice segue to the beer section and you hijacked it, you terrible, terrible guest?
That's why I'm a guest, because I don't know what happened.
So this is going to be segues. That was beautiful. The time on the podcast where we do talk more about the movie, but we're also going to mention the beers that we had real quickly. Right. So again, thank you, Blake and Dan. Thank you for hanging out.
Thank you, Jason. That was a really good, poignant thing. I love that.
Yeah. No,
I'm doing a bit.
I love you guys.
We come back around all the time.
Buddy.
It's all secular in this.
What was the other point I brought up that was in the previous recording?
Oh, that's gone to time. That's for the Flying Spaghetti Monster to digest on.
It was about the generations.
Yeah.
I like your new point better.
Yeah, I like my new point better.
The first beer that we tried, which again, we had this torpedo size $10 can of Great Divide Mexican Chocolate Yeti Imperial Stout, 9.5%. This is a very special, very limited entry into the Yeti series. It is a sensory delight, as they say in the marketing copy. They added a variety of spices, vanilla, and coffee to their standard Imperial Stout, which they call this a ode to the traditional champurrado drink, which is a spiced chocolate drink in part of the Aztec and Mayan cuisine and culture.
Oh, that's cool.
This had a really, really strong coffee espresso nose.
I loved everything about this beer.
Me too. It was actually a really good beer. Dan did good at serving it the right temperature.
Yeah.
Oh, and probably, I assume, appropriate glasses. The tulip style.
Little tulip glasses.
Yeah.
This is not a starter beer. It is very strong in flavor.
If you enjoy Michelob Ultra as your go-to, maybe do a couple other ones before you go to this.
Yes. We purposely said, okay, we have cheap beer to drink, but we want to do something nice to start. Something that's going to be complex and kind of sit with the movie nicely and not necessarily interrupt or distract a lot. But this one, I think kind of helped visuals with, I don't know, the beautiful stuff on the screen and the beautiful dancing in the mouth.
I think dancing in the mouth. I think them establishing with a lot of nature shots and the gentle 70s music is what helped pair this beer with it so well.
100%.
And the logo on the can has this kind of interesting rainbowish kind of effect that you saw in the 70s a lot. And everything has the Yeti, has the Sasquatch on it, their hats.
That's Great Divide's thing. Is Sasquatch just...
That's their jam.
Weird lumbering stroll. That
yes,
he does.
a lot of mountains. There's a lot of wide mountain shots, a lot. And what was interesting is that they tried to keep the horizon line sort of at the same spot every time they did a wide shot.
That is a good point.
I did not catch that.
Yeah, I was watching they did rule of thirds. So they did like 1/3 of sky and then 2/3 earth.
Absolutely.
Which is a great way to show how far you are away from the distance.
Cinematography and photography all into one. That was a good call. That's a good call, Dan, because you had 3 layers or 4 layers on that. That's a good call.
It all kind of works. And Great Divide, if you've ever been there in Denver, has a lot of...
It's ugly.
It's a cool
bunch
spot.
of locations.
No,
we went to their barrel house and tried some tasters. So if you are ever in...
You tried all the tasters and lost track of them.
We did, because there's a lot. And check them out. Tasters. They do really good, interesting standard beers, as well as a lot of different Yeti variants and other really big barrel-aged beers was kind of what put them on the map. But they've been around a while. Good stuff from them. Can't complain. This was kind of dry on the mid. The chocolate really stood out a lot.
It did.
A lot more than the coffee nose you got. I was excited for, coffee flavor. Sip, sip.
It's
coffee, but it's still burnt good. Chocolate, which kind of lent itself to coffee-ish, but not quite.
Right.
Is it barley?
Yeah, so it's got roasted barley. There's
smell
a lot of really dark roast.
Yes, I could smell the barley. In my opinion, I could when you smelled it, you didn't smell chocolate. You smelled the barley in it.
Yeah, it's got a lot of probably chocolate malt, which is super over roasted, and then really high Lovabond, like really, 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 like 500 or higher Lovabond, like really dark roast.
Which is fine. Dan. Preach it.
Which is really fine. I was surprised that it wasn't as coffee forward as I was expecting it from the aromatics. It was thinner and dried out and did have a nice amount of spice and flavor. You let it warm up a little bit, it kind of flattens a little. It doesn't retain any kind of effervescence, but that's okay because it shouldn't, because this is a big stout.
Yeah, like with the stout, you want it a little warm, right? That's generally the serving temp
tepid.
Is like room temp sort of.
Room temp, tepid,
This was a really tasty beer. It went to a beer I like afterwards, but not as complex, not as...
So
it's a lot more
why did you choose 10 Barrel Brewing Company's
You might get offended as to why.
Because we didn't want to do anything cheaper. This is cheap, but we didn't want to go cheaper. I honestly, we sent you a picture. We're like, we could do Genesee,
a 40 of PBR,
we could do Henry Weinhardt's, we could do a 40 PBR, or even Iron City or something super bad. But I was like,
I vetoed a couple of those.
I give props to 10 Barrel because they've had this beer out for a while. It's good. It's not expensive. I heard when I was in Bend earlier in the year that
he's always bragging about
not earlier this year, but last year, summertime last year, we went on a trip.
I've never been to Bend.
I have heard through the grapevine, hanging out at a brewery there with people who work at 10 Barrel, talking about this to the brewer at the place I was hanging out at the bar, saying that this is actually like supposed to be a clone of like Busch Light or a Busch variant, because they were just trying to make something fun. And as a joke,
what's more fun than drinking Busch until you throw up?
I know, and then it's just like they made this, and it's got adjunct. It's primarily adjunct. This is not grains. This is a lot of rice.
Refresh the listeners on what adjunct means.
So when you're using an adjunct, you're adding something to it to add additional sugars outside of your standard barley.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Or your grains. So you're using rice, or you're using corn, or something that's going to add sugars that is possibly going to have some flavor, but you don't care about that. You're just adding sugar because it's cheaper than grains. Grains are pretty expensive when you're buying it in large quantity. So they're like, we're going to make an adjunct lager. We're going to find an old recipe. We're going to see if we can tweak it to current standards. So they're probably using a more current style of hop, which makes it taste a little better.
Yeah.
They're still using adjunct grains, and they're still, they're using adjuncts and grains that are really minimal, and they can mass produce this cheap because the grains are what makes it so expensive.
I mean, the can says cheap fun. And anytime on the podcast where I've said, I just want a beer that tastes like a beer, this is usually what I'm referring to.
I thought that was interesting when you brought that up with what you're saying with other beers and how it came across, because you are absolutely right that it does. Like, this is a beer you can pick up.
Yeah.
You can go to the river. You can go to the ocean.
Perfect river beer.
Or go fishing, go hunting for elk or Sasquatch, particularly during sunset.
This is a perfect beer to drink while giving birth to a Sasquatch.
Yeah. I mean, when I get rolled over by a log, I always drink pub beer.
Now, this is a really good, just easy to drink beer. This is perfect for barbecues. We're going to summer now. It
really is.
The malts are going to be a little grainy, but so here's the question. The yeast and the hops are going to give you, because it's a noble hop, do you get any apple or pear?
I've never gotten apple or pear from this.
Really? So
I don't think I haven't, but my palate isn't as trained.
Sweet aftertaste lingers a little bit like pear.
I get pear too.
It's actually supposed to. That's what they're going for. Something that's going to be more of a citrus orientation instead of just grain.
I mean, so, I get the pear because it pairs very well with the rivers and the lakes.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We want to say,
so mad at you right
get
now.
A cheap beer if you want to get a cheap beer for the film. Try something out. You could do a sour, another kind of stout, just something complex and big.
A sour is a good call.
Because the movie's not terribly complicated. You can follow it pretty easily. We riffed over most of it. And we still were like, oh man, this is really good. Like we knew what was happening.
And a shout out to Dan again is like it is a very good movie. Like I think all three of us agree on that.
I give it a thumbs up.
But you can MST3K this very well because
the whole thing because we did.
Yeah, Dan
That's Mystery Science Theater 3000 for everyone who doesn't have the shorthand.
Yes, just have your friends along, drink or eat something fun, and just talk about it as you're watching it. And you don't have to pay attention to the whole thing, but there are scenes we stopped and rewound because it's like, oh, we need to get a picture of that because it was funny, and you're like,
for our Facebook background.
Yes, this is appropriate humor.
Ooh,
but yeah, so ultimately. Find something fun to drink with your friends. Not necessarily kid appropriate. Maybe teenager.
No. Not really. Like,
young kid, not so much because they're going to be like they're really bored.
They're not going to.
There's no action.
Yeah, there's not a lot happen.
Like, high school age and higher.
At minimum, high school. Yeah, and that's if they're like showing a propensity for cinema versus just movies. Which movies are great, but cinema's a different category.
No action, nothing blowing up. There's a forest fire in the distance they see. There's some sad scenes.
It's a lot more subtle than we expected it to be.
Yeah, it's very subtle in a lot of ways.
Yeah, subtle. And the beers were subtle. I mean, I know we only chose 2, but Dan, you did a great job with it because, I know it says Yeti, but let's get
it's a Sasquatch.
Yeah, let's get away from the title and look at what you said about the beer and both beers. Oh, yeah. You take the titles away, they still fit the beers well, fit the movie well, and above all, it was a great film, great company, and we had the right people here for it because we could appreciate something that not a lot of people are going to appreciate, and that goes with the pub beer as well.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. Yeah,
you're right.
I second that.
All right. So, thanks for hanging out and listening, everybody. And
you're welcome, buddy.
The opinions expressed during the taping of this recording are those of the hosts. And so if you don't hydrate like them Sasquatches.
Which translates to, if you don't hydrate, you'll dehydrate.
And if
a log.
Oh, no.
I only learned like that chunks. That's all I know how to say in Sasquatch.
Red rum.
Yes.
Yeah, we're going to watch The Shining next. That seems like a horrible movie to watch with beers.
All right. So thanks for hanging out and check out this movie if you can. Find something cheap and good. Do it with your friends because you'll want to talk about it as you watch it.
You're welcome, buddy. Thanks for coming on. This is awesome.
And big shout out to Jason for joining us and giving us some awesome commentary and theory because you always come with the theory.
Big shout out to the host of this podcast.
Blake.
They always do a great job. Brian is amazing. And we need to give him credit. No, actually not. He's down here. So give credit to Dan and Blake here. They do amazing jobs. And I just wanted to, usually I don't do that because I don't want to end the podcast with me. I want to end it with you.
No, we're going to end it with me saying, find us on Venmo.
But
send us money.
Send us money because we're running out of it. But more importantly, thank you guys. And thanks for indulging in me and Sasquatch.
In this wonderful 4th of July.
Thank you.
Yeah, nothing more patriotic than ape men doing stuff.
Because it's America, damn it. America.
It is America, yeah. It's not Canada.
At least they didn't get shot at, but they could have.
I did read the Declaration in minutes earlier today. So
there you go.
All
right, everybody.
I did eat something that was red, white, and blue.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. We'll talk to you the next time around. Have a good 4th and be safe.
Bye.